Alright, so I just got today's catch skinned. I just pulled, this is yesterday's out of the refrigerator. I've got today's in the washing machine ready to go, but I thought I'd make this quick video basically about numbers. You know, I get a lot of questions every day, and I get a lot of questions about numbers. And by that, I mean questions like, what do I consider a small trap line to be? What do I consider, you know, a large trap line to be? You know, say I've got a dozen sets out. What should I be expecting as far as my average catch a day? You know, so you could really break it down as this game of trapping it's truly a numbers game. And I think for a lot of people, especially guys starting out, it's kind of hard for them to wrap their head around that. You know, there's this kind of stereotype of, you know, we've been led to believe that you go out in the woods and you put a trap in, you come back the next day and there's critter in it, you know, and that is far from the truth. You know, many of you guys out there that's been doing this a while, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we can look at this a couple different ways. Basically, where you're at, your area, your check laws, things of that nature, that really comes into play here whenever we start looking at numbers. So what I want to do here in this video is I just like to kind of share with you my take and how I look at the numbers game, because, you know, really whenever you start breaking it down, you can really kind of see where you're going with this. So for example here, this is yesterday's. I just pulled them out of the refrigerator. There is 9 coons and 1 skunk here. It's yesterday's catch. I don't consider the skunks incidental by any means. Matter of fact, in today's market, this skunk here with its good stripes will probably sell faster and potentially more money than these coons. So, you know, I'm all about the skunks. But that's 10 critters, right? 9 coons and 1 skunk. Now, to catch these, I checked 34 sets yesterday. Now, we do the math. You know, if my high school math class proves me right there, that's somewhere around that 29.5% to 30% average on 34 sets, which for what I do, the amount of sets, you know, that I'm running, the area that I'm trapping and everything else, that's pretty good. That's far better than my average. You know, and a lot of this numbers is relative to the critters. For instance, if you're going out trapping muskrats and you're trapping feed beds, you would expect to have a higher catch ratio than you would, say, setting cornfields for coyotes. So you got to kind of look at this in a, you know, a perspective of what your critters you're targeting and different things like that. But, you know, for me, 30% on a mixed line is really very good. So what do I consider, you know, an average? Well, first off, let's look at a couple different factors. Also, numbers. It's a numbers game. In my area, I have a 24-hour check. The law reads that sets have to be checked once every calendar day. Basically a 24-hour law. So, what does that mean? Well, that means that I can only set out enough sets that I got to get them checked every single day. That's not the case in some place. In some states, and, you know, especially up north in Canada and stuff, you know, there's 3-day, 4-day, you know, you go to Alaska and, you know, if you're snaring there, I don't believe there is a check law on them. So, you know, those numbers really come into a factor whenever you're talking about, you know, the catch ratios. So for my area, you know, you guys have seen what I trap is predominantly farm field, you know, agricultural type land with, you know, fence rows and different blocks of timber, you know, scattered throughout. So we can kind of look at that too. You know, if you take 1 square mile of the area that I trap and you take out all the dead space, what's crop fields, which, you know, yes, a critter may move through that field, but at the same time, it's a lot of dead space. You know, there's not a lot of area in that square mile that's going to hold critters. So we kind of look at that. Also, you know, for the majority of my season, I'm running a mixed line, meaning, you know, coons and canines and, you know, about whatever I can catch. So your ratio is going to go up and down depending on what kind of critter you're targeting. So for me, I like to shoot for somewhere around that 10, 15, 20%. You know, that's, like I said, this is all relative to what you do. For some guys, that may be a real low number. For some others, it may be high. But that, you know, that 10 to 20% is kind of where I shoot for. And, you know, as far as sets, you know, you guys have seen, for instance, I ran 34 sets today. Now, that to me is a small line. I've been working a lot lately. As I said before, I have a full-time job, and you know, I travel for my job a little bit. I've been traveling far away. 34 sets is about what I can check in a day. That's keeping me pretty busy. Now, you know, sometimes I'll be working closer to home. I'll get out that, you know, that 100, 115, 120 set line. Well, then your critter catch is going to go up. You know, if you're going, you know, 10 to 15, 20% average on 100 plus sets, well, then you can see the numbers that I expect to bring in by that. You know, but just for instance, okay, so yesterday I checked 30, or 2 days ago I checked 34 sets, caught 10 critters basically. Today's check, I had 3 coons and 1 possum that I let go. So if we eliminate the possum, because we let him go, that's 3 coons out of 34 sets. We're now below 10%. So you can see how this numbers game is really up and down. And, you know, like this here, this was a pretty good catch for me. And then we got to look at the amount of sets we have out with how we set them. And what I mean by that is, you guys have heard me say this, you know, hundreds of times. If it's good enough for 1 set, it's good enough for 2. I always gang set. I always put at least 2 traps. So say one area hits and one area doesn't. Say one area doesn't hit. That's basically eliminating 2 traps. You know, we've got two sets very close together. So, you know, whenever I get up running and I'm running those 110, 115 sets, yes, I've got out, you know, that many sets, but at the same time, I'm basically only checking 50, 55 locations, you know, because I have, you know, 2 sets at each location. So, you know, you go 55 and you take 10% of that. Well, that's, you know, an average 5 critters a day. And I've made videos on this in the past, and, you know, that's about what I try to average whenever I get a big line out, you know, somewhere around 5 critters a day. Now, we can do the numbers game. We say, you know, we get an average of 75 days a season here to trap. You take out all our deer seasons, which sometimes, you know, limits the area that I could trap. You take out, you know, a few days here for real inclement weather, which we always have. And you can kind of put together and see the numbers that I expect to catch in a season. And for those of you starting out, you know, you can pretty much do the math. If the critters are there and you've got the experience, you can kind of expect, you know, that's what you're going to do. Shuffling sets around and everything else plays a factor, but at the same time, you know, it can be broke down fairly easily on what you're going to do. So, like I said here, just to reiterate, you know, everybody asks me what a small trap line is. Now, for me in my area, I would consider a small trap line anything 25 sets or under. You know, what I would consider a large trap line for my area, I pretty much do it. You know, you get over 100 sets, 110, 115, 120 sets on a 24-hour check, that's a lot of doing in a day. That's a lot of doing. That's a lot of checking. You know, I don't trap any public ground. We don't really have any around here. So, I mean, I'm running from plot of private ground to plot of private ground. There's a lot of travel time involved in there. So, that's what I would consider. You go up north, it's not uncommon to run, you know, a couple 100, 300, 400 sets because you're running a line, you know. That's why they call them trap lines. You're running a continuous run. You know, your check laws are different, so it's all real relative to the area that you're setting. And I think, you know, guys starting out, you got to understand that. If you're a guy starting out and you're running 6 sets and you're like me and you're wanting, you know, a 10 to 15% average, you know, you're looking at a critter every other day. And so if you're going to get discouraged with that, well, you know, maybe this isn't for you, but you got to kind of look at that. If you run a dozen sets a day, you know, for a 10 to 15% average, you know, expect about a critter a day. So, you know, I see guys and they comment with me, or they comment to me all the time, you know, and they say, oh, I've had these sets out for, you know, weeks, and, you know, I haven't caught anything. And I reply, you know, how many sets have you had out? 3. Okay. Well, that means, you know, simple math will tell you 3 sets, you know, you're going to catch a critter about every 4 days. You know, and that's if they hit. You know, so it's all relative in this, you know, relative to the numbers and the number of sets and the locations and everything else that you have out. So anyway, guys, I just thought I'd make this quick video and kind of, you know, try to explain to you my thinking on the trapping as a numbers game, because like I said, whenever you start breaking it down, you can kind of see you know, what you can expect and what you want to do. Now, I mean, like I said, it all changes. If you're trapping a beaver house and you got all the entrances closed off, well, you're going in there thinking they're all going to hit. If you're trapping coyotes in the middle of the field, it may take a while. So just a few ideas and just a few thoughts to kind of take with you, and I hope you guys took something from this anyway. You know, I get a lot of questions on topics like this, so I thought I'd make this short video. So anyway, guys, I've got a little bit of work to do. I got to get these guys fleshed and on the boards. Gotta get something to eat and go to bed. So we'll do it all over again tomorrow. I appreciate you guys staying with me. Till the next video.